Now, time for the week that was. Let's take a look at the top stories that made headlines across the globe this week. Now, leaders of the West African bloc, Ecowas, this week approved a resolution to activate and deploy a standby military force to Niger Republic in preparation for a restoration of constitutional order there, in the wake of the recent palace coup that toppled President Mohamed Bazoum. They also warned countries within the bloc who are publicly supporting the coup leaders to refrain from doing so. The resolutions were reached at the second extraordinary summit in Abuja in the political crisis in Niger. However, State House correspondent Adesuwa Omorwan reports that leaders re-emphasized their preferred choice of exploring a diplomatic solution to the crisis.
Since the July 26 coup that overthrew the democratically elected government in Niger, the coup leaders have refused to relinquish power and release ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. Leaders from the West African bloc convened for the second time within 10 days to address the ongoing crisis. Acknowledging the failure of initial sanctions and mediation attempts to engage the military junta, the summit begins with a commitment to prioritize diplomacy while maintaining all available options.
More so, in reaffirming our relentless commitment to democracy, human rights, and the well-being of the people of Niger, it is crucial that we prioritize diplomatic negotiations and dialogue as the bedrock of our approach. And we still look to engage the party involved, including the coup leaders, in honest discussion to convince them to relinquish power as suggested and reinstate President Bazoum.
Following hours of closed-door discussions, which included reviewing envoy reports, Ecowas chiefs of defense staff meeting, and recent developments in Niger, the leaders come to a unanimous agreement.
Direct the Committee of the Chief of Defense Staff to activate the Ecowas standby force with all its elements immediately. Order the deployment of the Ecowas standby force to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger. Underscore its continued commitment to the restoration of constitutional order through peaceful means.
They condemned the continued detention of the ousted president and announced their intent to enforce measures in place, including strict travel bans.
Enforce all measures, in particular border closures and strict travel bans and assets freeze, on all persons or groups of individuals whose actions hinder all peaceful efforts aimed at ensuring the smooth and complete restoration of constitutional order. Direct the President of the Commission to monitor the implementation of the sanctions.
President of Côte d'Ivoire, who left the summit before its conclusion, expresses his view on the coup, stating that ECOWAS must not tolerate the coup plotters.
They're keeping President Bazoum as a hostage. I personally consider this as a terrorist act, and we cannot let this continue. We have to act. The position of Côte d'Ivoire, which has been endorsed by all of the head of states, are that we have been able to tell these putschists that their place is in the barracks. They should go to fight the terrorists and not try to kidnap a democratically elected president.
The ECOWAS authorities issued a stern warning to member states obstructing peaceful crisis resolution in Niger, outlining potential consequences. They are also calling for global support, including from the United Nations, to ensure a quick restoration of constitutional order in the country. The second extraordinary summit has come to a close. The regional leaders left no doubt about their resolve to restore stability and pave the path to lasting peace. However, achieving this through diplomacy remains uncertain at this time, with the activation of a military standby force to restore order in Niger. From the presidential villa, Abuja, Adesuwa Omorwan, Arise News.
All right, Steve, this is a developing story and one that is being keenly followed because it has the ability to morph beyond anyone's imagination. Give us your own perspective of all the events that have actually happened in the past few weeks.
Well, Aaron, I mean, it is important to show understanding to what the Ecowas Commission is trying to do. It is in the protocol of the Ecowas that coups will no longer be allowed in the region, at least among all the 15 countries that subscribe to the Ecowas Treaty. And you can understand, therefore, after the 3 previous coups that they were not able to do anything about in Guinea, in Mali, and in Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
But of course, our president, who doesn't have any military background whatsoever, who's a Democrat all his life, and who believes that his own credentials and his persona and everything should be seen as the current chairman of ECOWAS. And therefore, he's been vociferous in insisting that coups will no longer be tolerated within the sub-region. Unluckily for him and for ECOWAS, it could happen, very close to us here in Niger. And you can understand, therefore, that in addition to the ECOWAS protocols and treaties that forbid coups in the sub-region, President Tinubu is also kind of galvanized sufficiently to want to walk the talk. However, having demonstrated that this is what the treaty says, Niger has been part of that treaty, for years. So much so that the same general who has now taken over and holding Bazoum as a hostage, repelled a coup attempt, just about 2 or 3 years ago. So you can see why a President Bola Tinubu will be desperate to say that, yes, we will exhaust all diplomatic options, which is why you can see what the Babangana Kingibes of this world, General Abdul Salami, Abubakar, what they have done, and lately, of course, the former emir, of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, trying to make the junta see reason. But it's obvious now that with Bazoum being claimed to have resigned, a new prime minister appointed and a new government sort of formed. So it looks like this is not just about the guys in khaki uniform, anymore. It's about the fact that it looks like Niger is moving on. At what point they will now roll out their program to say that we are not going to be here forever. This is what we are going to do. In 1 year, in 18 months, in 24 months, nobody knows for now. And they are also galvanizing a whole load of the citizens. And we can see, from what has been happening, even though they're going overboard, burning places, etc. It's not looking too good. Because at what point will diplomacy fail and all the other options that ECOWAS is talking about will kickstart? Where is the standing interventionist force that ECOWAS is talking about? The last time that force was in operation, was the ECOMOG force. Where will they be pulled from? For how long will it take? Days, weeks, or months to gather them and assemble, and control them? It's not going to be anything easy, especially now that the international dimension of it is getting intense. Russia is speaking, saying that there will be consequences if there is military intervention. Algeria, which is a neighbor to Niger, to the north, is also speaking to say that be careful in your choice of words and in what you seek to do. And who are we talking about within ECOWAS? All these people in Abuja, and you see that every time that they're having the summit, they keep announcing, there will be lunch in room A, B, there will be lunch for the head of state. And I don't understand. You are discussing possibility of a war, and all we're hearing on TV, is lunch here and there. I don't get that. And I hope that they will, watch that on live TV the next time. They have done it 2 times now. Where are we drawing the soldiers from? Outside of Nigeria? Outside of Cote d'Ivoire? Outside of Ghana? Is it from Benin? Is it from Togo? Is it from Gambia? Is it from what's that small island, Cape Verde? Okay. That we are going to draw military that will now go and fight wars. Why do we even need this war? I do not know at what point ECOWAS will say that, hey, the game is up. We have to move in. I don't know. But I think that the mood of the nation and the National Assembly, the Senate, has also been clear about it, that do everything possible to avoid this war, because we are not going to queue behind that decision. At what point, therefore, will it become the ECOWAS decision for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to pull out Nigerian soldiers to go and fight, when many Nigerians, if not most Nigerians, do not want it? And the Senate especially do not want it. I don't think that we'll wake up tomorrow and hear that fight has started. I think that the process will take a while. And while it's taking some time to build up, won't the junta be consolidating in Niger? And at that point, citizens are getting used to it. And with Bazoum being held, I don't understand the noise about the fact that there will be consequences if anything happened to Bazoum. Do we want to sacrifice Bazoum just to show that ECOWAS has the military might?
You know, a lot of people have questioned the body language of ECOWAS, because a lot of people have said that probably the US and Europe do have overwhelming influence on ECOWAS and what they have been doing. As a matter of fact, Senator Ojuzo Kalu has spoken against all that is happening and the move that ECOWAS wants to take.
He practically accused the US and France.
Yes, and that's what he's done. He's actually gone on to say that we should not help them fight their war. We know that from looking from the outside, a lot of people say that these international powers are very interested and they have vested interest in Niger.
Yeah, but those two key countries have got their troops out there in Niger.
Yeah, and they are not doing anything.
I mean, why do they need to? Why do they need us to fight that battle?
No, but the point is, I'm sure they will be looking at it from the fact that Niger is a sovereign nation, and if the US or probably France decides to engage, it will be almost encroaching on their sovereignty. So they are trying to use ECOWAS to fight a proxy war of some sort.
Obviously.
And it's unfortunate that the question is, my big issue with all of this is that why is it that war was even put on the table in the initial instance? We shouldn't have started off on the wrong foot.
I think that was hasty.
I think that was hasty, and that is where people begin to question the logic, the motive behind ECOWAS, because we know that Niger is the seventh largest deposit of uranium in the world, and France and other EU countries are very, very interested in what is happening there and how much they can actually exploit that mineral resource. And it's unfortunate, it's very, very unfortunate that in the 21st century, we're talking about war in Africa. Everyone loses when there is a war. We should not even still be talking about this. But since ECOWAS have played their hands, they would not want to look weak by deciding to go through the diplomatic route. And that hence the problem. Because over the years, people have questioned and quizzed how much influence does ECOWAS have in the administration of democracy in the regional bloc. And once again, they've shown that they are not to be dependent upon. They've shown that they do not have that much influence they claim to have on paper.
Especially because they couldn't do anything when it happened in Mali, when it happened in Burkina Faso, and when it happened in Guinea. We can, Chad, it did happen in Chad, but Chad is not a member, of ECOWAS, so we can understand. But hey, it's part of the double standard that people are saying, why didn't you do anything, when it happened in those three countries? The other thing will be that, yes, if they don't want to look weak and want to demonstrate strength and ability, they should learn from what is happening currently between Russia
and Ukraine.
Because a lot of people thought that it would be a walkover.
True.
Will it be a walkover? On paper, if you say between Nigeria and Niger, it's a no-brainer, to conclude, of course, that we will overrun them. ECOWAS will overrun them. But wars are never that straightforward.
Never. It has
America tried it in Saigon. We know how it turned out. Even in Afghanistan, after 20 years, they had to run.
No, but Steve, my own question is, why did President Bola Ahmed Tinubu also support that particular move? Because, like you said, He has no military background, and I think it was too hasty for him to have supported that move, and also going to the National Assembly trying to seek their consent. And I look at that and I say to myself that is completely wrong. At this point in time, what we should be looking at with all that is happening within Nigeria is Nigeria first. We've always played the big brother in Africa, and we've always tried to be Pan-African. But at this moment in time, you have to take care of yourself before you can start thinking of taking care of others. And I don't know where that came from. And I'm happy that the Senate have actually listened to the voice of reason, and they've decided to do the right thing. And we should insist that if anyone wants to go to war, Nigeria will not be part of it. Because the truth is this: when you look at it closely, the spill out from all this is what the humanitarian spill out of all this cannot be quantified, because imagine the number of people. That is why Algeria are insistent.
I get to Aaron, we have to go to the next story, but I mean, whichever way you look at it, the war is not desirable.
No.
Find another way to resolve the crisis in Niger. All right, 21 people were this week gunned down in a village in Plateau State, north-central Nigeria, by unidentified assailants. This was the latest in a growing spate of attacks on villages in the state. Our rights correspondent, Douglas Francis, filed this report.
Several villages in Plateau State have been under severe attacks by suspected headsmen who had left hundreds dead and thousands displaced. Confirming the incident, spokesperson of the Operation Safe Haven, a multi-security task force maintaining peace in the state, Captain Ola James, says the latest attack took place in the early hours of Thursday, which left 21 people dead and 13 injured who are currently in the hospital. Eyewitness says this is the second attack on Ayapang village in 2 months. In June 2023, 2 villagers were killed in a similar attack.
They invaded 4 houses, and in these houses, they killed 6 people in one of the houses. They killed 3 people in the second house. They killed another 6 people in another house, and they killed 1 woman in another house.
We are very angry, and we are crying over the loss of our people. And people are agitating that the security personnel are not trustworthy anymore. So for that reason, they should evacuate them around Haipang, and if possible, Barkin-Ladi and Plateau State.
Member representing Barkin-Ladi State constituency, Philip Jiwe, expressed disappointment with the continuous attacks, saying the incident had become a reoccurrence despite the presence of security personnel.
The security situation in Barkin-Ladi has become very porous. And we are calling on the sector commander. Yes, to some extent, in some instances, he has done his best. But we are feeling that the effort put in is not enough. The DPOs also have been doing his best, but we are pleading that the security agencies, their proactiveness nature is not very effective.
All right, Aaron, I mean, Plateau has become something totally undesirable and unacceptable, for Nigeria. And the case of Plateau State is one of the reasons, perhaps, why many Nigerians are saying that don't go to war elsewhere when we have our own issues that we are dealing with here. Yeah. The military is stretched, the security agencies are stretched, so much so that we now even have private military companies claiming that they are collecting money from federal government to ensure that the sort of things, killings that are happening in Plateau, in Benue, do not happen. But yet here we are, another 21 people killed in cold blood, leading to clearly more than 300 people in the last 3 months, more than 200 people since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed office. And I recall that last month, he did make a pronouncement about the fact that what is happening in Plateau is unacceptable. But what have we done about it? We've lost, since he said that, maybe we've lost, something in the region of another 50 people dead. And this can't continue. It is not a war situation in the sense of, what they're planning against Niger. But here we are. We dealt with this kind of issues since Jonathan's era, throughout President Muhammadu Buhari's era. This is what the era of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is also looking like. Will it mean, therefore, that when we are doing the analysis of his first 100 days next month, part of what we'll now be counting will be body bags from Plateau, from Benue, and from other parts of the north, where senseless killings are still going on? This is clearly unacceptable.
One of the things they accuse former President Buhari of is that the neglect of the fundamental purpose of government, which is the protection of life and property. Mm-hmm. And we're beginning to see that happen to people in Plateau State. I can just imagine how they feel as Nigerians being led down, not just by this government. Because usually when accusations like this are made to the government, they try to take it personal and not try to put themselves and not have enough empathy to put themselves in the minds and in the hearts of those people who are living in this hotbed area and who are facing this crisis time and time again. I'm sure people that live in Plateau State, killings have become, they are not more frightened by the numbers they get to see, because it's been happening non-stop. It's unfortunate, it is despicable, and it's highly condemnable.
Absolutely.
But what is the government doing? Because are they saying that what is happening in Plateau is beyond...
Whatever they're doing is not sufficient.
Because they've done joint task force time and time again. They've actually brought in all the names you can actually think of, fanciful names, but the results have been very minimal. They have big names, little results, big names, little results. We need to vista into this to ensure that every part of Nigeria is safe. And if we do not do this, then we have failed the people. Because Plateau State used to be one of the most peaceful places. People loved the weather.
Absolutely.
People loved the agricultural produce that comes from Plateau State. All of a sudden, the level of unrest in Plateau State is heartbreaking. It's unfortunate this has happened.
The farmer-herder clashes that are ceaseless. Government will just have to tackle it headlong, because it is unacceptable for government not to be able to protect a certain section of the country. And then you are thinking of going elsewhere to go and fight. It really beats logic,
It is the height of hypocrisy.
It should be a challenge. It should be a challenge to the NSA and to the commander-in-chief especially. They should find a lasting solution to the problem in Plateau State.
All right, back to Nigeria politics. Senate President Godswill Akpabio this past week unwittingly announced the disbursement of a holiday financial largesse for his colleagues on the floor of the upper chamber of the National Assembly. At the time in question, Senator Godswill Akpabio was apparently unaware that the microphones before him were active. However, when his attention was called to it, the Senate President quickly sought to make light of the incident by saying that he actually meant to send prayers to the senators. Steve, it's unfortunate that the 10th Assembly has become a laughingstock. From the joke gone wrong with let the poor breathe to this now. Because we hear that some are complaining and they called it a paltry sum of 2 million naira. And I question and I ask, how is 2 million, where in Nigeria is 2 million naira a paltry sum?
Well, we don't know the amount,
No, that's the allegation.
Yeah, nobody has
some senators have actually confirmed that it is 2 million naira.
Well, the authority of the Senate hasn't authenticated that. But let's assume, of course, that is what is, we see what is flying about and everything.
Yeah.
Initially, I thought it was sarcasm, because I don't believe that he didn't realize that the microphone was on. Of course, he realized that the microphone was on. He intentionally made an announcement in the jocular manner to basically, to cut the interest of the senators and to say to them, yes, we're about to proceed on recess, but there's good news. Which turned out to be a gaffe. But can we really call it a gaffe? No. It's, and we will get stuff like this, from Akpabio. Just like you said, they let the poor breathe kind of a thing, trivialize and, serious matters, on the floor of the Senate. But what are the issues? I really do not understand why the Senate, the Senate Assembly, is unable to properly address this issue. A lot of people have argued, particularly on social media, to say that what was shared might actually be part of their entitlement. And I do not have a problem if the issue has to do with what RAMFAC approves for senators in terms of...
Steve, I do have an issue.
Hold on, Aaron. What I'm saying is that if there's a package for you, as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and for your recess break, a certain amount has been allocated. I would doubt very much if what will be contained in RAMFAC's paper to them would be 2 million. Because to that 2 million will be 2 million of what? What people are circulating on social media was what happened in 2011, when a calculation of about 10% of their annual basic salary, the same way that in most companies you will get 10% of your annual basic salary as your leave allowance. That's what they're trying to say that this is our vacation allowance. It's a different argument, though, to now say that it's a new assembly. This is the 10th assembly. You resumed in June. You were inaugurated in June. And hey, in August, you want to go on summer after 2 months. Who goes on holiday, paid holiday, after 2 months of work? But that's a different argument. As bad as it is, it's not as bad as the actual issue of whatever amount that Akpabio realized that, he really can't defend it. And it was whispered to say, hey, Senate President, you can't go there because this will backfire. And it has backfired on them. I challenge the leadership of the Senate to come out clean and tell Nigerians what is contained in their remuneration as far as leave allowance or recess or vacation allowance, whatever they are called, is contained. Okay. They probably won't be able to say, because it won't be the same thing that in the paper that senators got. Because at the end of the day, we will now know how much you're actually collecting as basic per year. And if you calculate 10% of that as what you take as your leave allowance, will it correspond to whether 2 million or whatever amount that they are collecting? The bad optics of it all is that right in the middle of of a mental upheaval of some sort, that Nigerians are tightening their belt, people can barely feed in many homes, and things are getting tougher. Dollar is approaching 1,000 naira. We have a few gentlemen across all parties, across all states, sharing money to go on holiday. It looks so bad that an apology is necessary if truly they are distinguished gentlemen.
But an apology doesn't suffice. And that is why I detest when people in government come out to say, we know what you feel. That is the height of hypocrisy. Because they do not know what we feel. Because one of the accusations and one of the problems a lot of people have levied against the National Assembly is that they are overcompensated, they are overpaid, and they get so much emoluments.
Then Akpabio says that they're not getting enough.
For doing absolutely not enough.
The larger picture, Aaron,
yes,
is to have a national conversation on what constitutes, the sort of size of government that we want to have and how we want to remunerate them.
One thing is, if there's anything that is clear in this has just pointed to the fact that the cost of governance is too high in the modern Nigeria we find ourselves.
I totally agree
and
with
it
you.
is unrealistic.
I totally agree with you.
Everyone,
it is this,
everyone except the citizens
yeah,
are the ones not benefiting. If you are in government...
And it's the same logic that I will apply
yeah,
to the 47 or 48 man cabinet,
yes,
the largest in the world, as far as we know, anywhere in the world. It's the same logic that I apply to it, that we really do not need that. Constitution stipulates 1 per state. 1 per state. Add FCT to it. Yeah. If you want to, gallivant, add 6 to it, as Obasanjo did, as Jonathan did, as Buhari did, 1 per geopolitical zone, which is not even necessary, by the way, at a time like this. But here we are.
But the point is, the government is always, or the body language of the government is, do as we say, or don't do as, but we will not do as we say. And that's the fact that one law applies to one and doesn't apply to the other is hypocrisy. And I say it again.
What is bad?
The National Assembly
is bad.
What the National Assembly has always been queried and quizzed over the years. Yeah. And that is why when former President Olusegun Obasanjo came out on this same topic, a lot of people questioned, including myself, that probably the cascading effect of where we find ourselves today, or the ripple effect.
The former president said clearly that it was unconstitutional for the National Assembly to be fixing his own, what it
but they said, but the people will say that he actually opened the floodgates for this to happen.
It doesn't matter.